Let's talk today about when they go low, we go high. You might remember that those were the words of Michelle Obama during the 2016 Democratic Convention, and it was drawing a sharp contrast between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Trump was going low, personal attacks, insults, ad hominems, making fun of a disabled reporter, all of that stuff. And the idea was, in comparison, we are going to take the high road. And that slogan quickly became sort of the unofficial motto for the Clinton campaign, and it symbolized the commitment that we on the left will maintain dignity and integrity in the face of Trump's very low provocations. And throughout the Trump era, prominent Democrats would frequently reference the slogan. It would be sort of a rallying cry for civility in the political discourse. But if you've been paying attention to this year's DNC last week, for example, you've probably noticed a shift. Democrats aren't just playing defense anymore. That old slogan, when they go low, we go high, has been quietly retired in favor of something a little more direct. They're just plain weird has been part of this change. Democrats are finally going on offense, and it is about time. But not everybody is thrilled. And I've been hearing from some of those people. So let's go through some examples first of what I mean from last week's convention. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling Trump a two-bit union buster.
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day.
Sean Fain from the United Auto Workers calling Trump a scab.
And Donald Trump is a scab.
Jamie Raskin calling Trump a career criminal.
And we're going to defeat Donald Trump, the career criminal, and incorrigible recidivist con man and his pet chameleon, J.D. Vance.
President Joe Biden calling Trump out for being a convicted felon.
Crime will keep coming down when we put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett called Trump out for being a Nepo baby.
The other was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and helped his daddy in the family business. Housing discrimination, that is.
Michelle Obama echoing the same sentiment, referencing the affirmative action of generational wealth.
That most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth.
This is a welcome development. We need to take Donald Trump seriously. It's not an exaggeration to say he represents a major threat to democracy to the extent that we have a democracy. But here's the thing. While it's crucial to recognize Trump as a serious threat, there is some risk in framing him as this all-powerful villain, and it can end up playing into his hands. So the speakers, many of the speakers at the DNC, did something differently. They effectively disempowered Trump by portraying him as this whiny, small, petty, tired guy to be made fun of, undercutting the strongman image that he tries to project. Criticizing Donald Trump and the MAGA movement is a political necessity, but not all criticisms of Trump have equal rhetorical force. We get to the one you're probably all wondering about. Wait, David, what about the Barack Obama thing? Yes, at one point during last week's convention, former President Barack Obama went below the belt, insinuating, both with what he said and with what he did with his hands, that Donald Trump has a small penis. Remember this moment?
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
So this went viral, and I'm sure that it got under Donald Trump's skin. It's important to realize that the humor isn't so much about Trump's body in and of itself, but Trump's obsession with it. And this is a critical thing, I believe, to understand for those who wrote to me and said, David, isn't this the thing we would criticize Republicans for if they did it? Didn't we criticize Trump, especially when he did this in 2016? Well, from the beginning, Trump has been obsessed, fixated on crowd size, an obsession that underscores his narcissism. Trump has a constant need to inflate his ego, much like his exaggerated claims about physical attributes and strength and power and masculinity. And all of it really just reveals Trump's insecurities more than anything about the people that Trump is attacking. It's crude behavior. It's vindictive. It's frankly pathetic and childish. And because of that, it is long overdue to start mocking Trump's obsession. It's not about Trump's penis size. Let me explain. For years, Democrats tried to take the high road, often turning a blind eye when Trump would do these childish antics. But we get to a point where you have to push back. Voters want leaders who will stand up to bullies, not shy away from them, not calling them out for their bizarre behavior. That's what we're seeing right now. Penis jokes left to your interpretation as to whether you like them specifically. We are seeing a willingness from the Democratic Party to call Trump and the Republicans out at their own game. Democrats should go high and low, substantiating their attacks against Trump by critiquing his position on issues that actually matter to people. This is why Tim Walz's "they're just plain weird" line works so well. In a vacuum, "you're weird" might just sound like a playground taunt, another ad hominem. But the difference is that Tim Walz ties it back to policy.
And they continue to be obsessed with things. You know there's something wrong with people when they talk about freedom, freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read. That stuff is weird. They come across weird. They seem obsessed with this. They continue to try and tell you. And look, the thing that I find the most weird about it is they never do the things they say.
When they talk about freedom to be in your bedroom, freedom to be in your exam room, freedom to tell your kids what they can read, that stuff is weird. It's undeniably strange that Republicans are so fixated on the sex lives of LGBT Americans, spending significant political capital on restricting the rights of that group of people. It's bizarre that Republicans are determined to regulate women's bodily autonomy, imposing restrictions on reproductive rights in healthcare. It's weird that Republicans are on a crusade to ban books in school libraries and trying to control the information and ideas that students are exposed to. And Tim Walz expanded on this theme during his speech at the convention, invoking Mr. Rogers by emphasizing Republicans are not neighborly and they lack basic decency.
But not everyone has that same sense of responsibility. Some folks just don't understand what it takes to be a good neighbor.
On Project 2025, saying it's an agenda that serves nobody but the richest and most extreme amongst us. It's an agenda that does nothing for our neighbors in need. Is it weird? Absolutely. This has struck a nerve with Republicans. In response, Republicans have shot back by saying Walz is tampon Tim for signing a law that requires schools to supply menstrual products in bathrooms regularly used by students. Now, as a side note, many Republicans have said Walz is requiring tampons be in the boys' bathrooms. It turns out that that's a lie. Not really the subject of this video, though. Trump has responded to all of this by saying Walz is heavy into transgender.
He's going for things that nobody's ever even heard of. Heavy into the transgender world, heavy into lots of different worlds.
So the debate over weirdness has really evolved into a proxy war on social issues, particularly focusing on trans rights, book bans. These are areas where Republicans are most vulnerable and unpopular. Unlike Barack Obama's comment about Trump's size, these are social issues with real consequences, and they resonate very deeply with voters. And these themes are also present in Kamala Harris's regular stump speech now.
Before I was elected as vice president, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California. And before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor.
In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
So this is the correct way to criticize Donald Trump while trying to appeal to a large cross-section of voters and not making fun of the physical appearance. And Harris repeatedly calls Trump a predator, a fraudster, a cheater. These are personal attacks, sure, but they're accurate and they really spotlight aspects of Donald Trump's character, and it matters to people. Trump is a predator. His serial sexual assaults matter to people. Trump is a fraudster. The fact that he has this history of not paying workers, from dishwashers at hotels to his own lawyers, that matters to people. It's about character. Trump is a cheater. The fact that he tried to illegally remain in power after losing to Joe Biden very much matters to people. And when Tim Walz calls the MAGA movement weird, he backs it with real substantive policy critiques that show how out of touch the Republican Party is. When Kamala Harris says she knows Donald Trump's type, she's not just talking about the orange skin or the weird hair or the size of whatever. She's exposing the toxic elements of his character that voters care about. So we have a mix of going high, going low, and the Barack Obama size joke is fine as a small piece of the total approach, which it is. It's a small piece of the total approach. And I'm not even making a pun when I say that. But it's contextualized with our understanding that it's about Trump's obsessions and his lies and his egomania and his narcissism, and showing that, hey, you know what? You have vulnerabilities too, of the kind that you try to plant only on other people. If the penis size jokes became 90% of the approach, it would be objectively a bad idea. As a reminder, as this small sliver in conjunction with the policy-based they are weird stuff, I think it's basically fine as a reminder that, do you really want this fragile, but at the same time egomaniacal, narcissistic snowflake to be president for another 4 years? I certainly don't. And the criticisms have been correct. I can't tell you whether the size criticism about Trump is right. We just don't know, although we've heard reports from people like Stormy Daniels. I don't know. But the weirdness of their approach to social issues, very, very accurate.